Now, former President Jacob Zuma's son, Duduzane Zuma, has expressed his sympathy to the families affected by the accident that brought him to the Randburg Magistrates Court today. Zuma is on trial for culpable homicide following a crash in February 2014. One person died when his car hit a minibus taxi. Another person died in hospital later. For more on the story, we're now joined in studio by our reporter Sibongile Mkani-Mpolweni, who's been following this story. Thanks so much for joining us. This is a story that's been unfolding for a long time. Initially, the NPA didn't want to prosecute it, and then they were sort of forced, I guess. Take us through that and how we got to today.
Okay, initially the NPA instituted a inquest hearing at the Randburg Magistrates Court, and the outcome of that inquest was that Duduzane Zuma was responsible for the crash. And then the docket was taken to the NPA's DPP office, where a decision was made not to prosecute. And then came AfriForum. They said that they will institute a private prosecution. That's when the NPA then did an about 10 and said, okay, we will prosecute. That's why now we are back in court. But what happened earlier in court is that the state finished with this case, calling witnesses. One witness there testified that Duduzane Zuma's car was speeding on the day, and that she had been sitting next to the deceased during the crash. He was initially charged with reckless and negligent driving and 2 culpable homicide cases because 2 people died. But it was then discovered that the second person died in hospital due to other conditions, not actually
so
the crash.
Condition.
Yes. So that's why now he's only facing 2 charges, the reckless and negligent driving, reckless, and as well as culpable homicide.
Right.
So today he took the stand for the first time. You would remember that in previous times when he appeared, the defense had lodged section 174 to dismiss, dismiss the case, saying that there's no case against Zuma. But the court decided otherwise and said, no, there is actually a case for him to answer. So that's why now the trial continued today. It started with a little bit of glitches because the courthouse, they had no electricity and they could not start the court. And when eventually the electricity came back, we could not continue. That's why they dropped early. It was postponed early because the recording device for the stenographer to record the information, what is happening, the proceedings, was malfunctioning. So it had to stop because of that. But he took the stand for the first time today. We know that he's always pleaded not guilty to both charges, Peter.
All right, so he took the stand, but he didn't actually testify at all today. Is that what you're saying?
No, he did testify.
Okay. Right.
He was led in evidence by his attorney, advocate, where he told the court that on the day it was raining and that it was at night. He was on his way to home, Saxon World, from Fourways, and when he got onto the highway, he was driving at 120 speed, but it started to rain heavily, and he dropped his speed to between 90 and 100. He was saying that he was not looking at his speedometer, but he assumes that he was between 90 and 100.
So he knows that he reduced his speed, but he doesn't know to what level.
Yes, that's what he said.
And this is all on the highway?
Yes, this is all on the highway.
Right.
Just before his car hit the puddle, the pool of water, he had dropped his speed, but he was saying that it was raining heavily at that time, and that visibility was not good. And that's when his car hit the pool of water, and he says the car spun around uncontrollably. He could do nothing. He held on to the steering wheel, to quote him, for dear life, as he did not know what was happening, and he did not hit the brakes or accelerator. He just held onto the steering wheel. The car spun around a couple of times, hit something, which we now know that it was the taxi, and then the car eventually stopped on its own. And then he said by that time when the car had stopped, it had looked at the direction where he was coming from, facing oncoming traffic, and then he moved his car to the barrier on the side of the road and went to the taxi.
So the event happened all by himself, and it's when he lost control that it started spinning around and hitting things, including the taxi, and that was where the woman was inside, and that's how she died.
Yes.
All right, so did he say he saw any of these? He didn't see the puddle, he didn't see the taxi?
He didn't see the puddle, he didn't see the taxi. He said that moments before the crash, he had overtaken a car and that car had splashed him with water, or there was water, and his visibility was not clear at all. That's why he didn't even see the water part.
Where on the highway did this happen?
Just as you hit Greyston, just before the off-ramp to Santon, Greyston Drive.
Yes.
It happened right about there.
All right. And what did the prosecution say about the puddle, whether there was a puddle or not? What evidence was led there?
The prosecution had just started with cross-examination, so they were asking him if he did not see the puddle, and he said no, he did not see it. And they asked him about his car, because he drives a Porsche and it has this special feature, safety feature, which is called aquaplane, which is supposed to, if your Porsche hits water, it's supposed to control itself and it doesn't spin around like normal other cars. So they were asking him about that. He said that he didn't know that his car had that feature, even though he was asked, when did you buy the car? He said 2011. So he had the car.
So he'd had the car 3 years,
yes,
and he didn't know about this
feature. Yes.
All right. So if he didn't see the pool of water,
he assumes.
How does he know that it was a pool of water?
He assumes that he hit a pool of water because it was wet and it was raining hard.
Okay. Sibongile Mkani-Mpolweni, we're going to leave it there for the time being, but I assume it's all happening again tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. because they want to recover the time that they've lost. You know that the defense is only calling 2 witnesses, Duduzane and their expert, who will testify on the car and in defense of Duduzane.
All right. Thank you so much indeed, Sibongile. All right. Now.